Hi guys, thanks for joining me today. I'm Marilyn and my channel is Making with Marilyn. Now I do all things crafty, but on today's video I'm going to make a couple of sublimation tumblers. Now on a recent video I showed you how I made this on the Glowforge. And so my niece recently opened a bakery in Fayetteville, Arkansas, and I wanted to help her brand it. And so on the cutting board I engraved it into the cutting board. Today I'm going to put her logo on a soft, kind of minty gray background onto two sublimation tumblers. Now, things that I'm going to use today, and not all of these are necessary, it's just tools that I have, so I want to explain those. I'm going to use my two prints. I have two 20-ounce sublimation tumblers. These came from Real Cant, but I use them from many different sources. I have my sublimation tape. I have alcohol and a paper towel to clean my tumblers. I have a rotary cutting tool and a metal ruler on the back. Oh my goodness, look at this. A flock dot. I do rhinestones all the time. Anyway, I have this ruler that has the cork on the back so it stays put. Some people like to use the guillotine cutters. You can use whatever you want, even scissors. I just like to use my rotary blade and a metal ruler. All right, I have some heat-resistant gloves. These are just heat-resistant, not heat-proof. Heat-resistant sublimation tape. I love this brand, and I love that it's a little wider. I think that works really nicely on tumblers. I have a Pinch Perfect tool. They did send this to me to try out, and I've enjoyed using it, so I'm going to use that today. And then sometimes I use this just to press on my seams to get those burnished down really well. You could use whatever you want. And then sometimes I get under the tape to pull it off with a weeding tool. I don't know if I'll use it today, but I also made this. Oftentimes that can be helpful as well. Now I have this Enur sublimation tumbler press. It came also with a hat press attachment and a base. I've really enjoyed using that recently. And then when I put my tumbler in the press, I'm going to use this as blowout paper. Now the last thing I can think of that I'm going to use is my cutting mat. And so I'm going to go ahead and move all this off, get that cutting mat put down, and we'll get started. Now I just thought I might as well go ahead and clean my tumblers before I put my cutting mat down. And so in the box you get the tumbler and the lid. And then inside the bigger box, it also came with straws, plus the little silicone tip and a cleaning brush. Then I also got these in the box as well. Now they also sent some shrink wrap in the larger box, but I don't use it, so I'll just put it aside. Now not everybody takes this next step, but I do. It only takes a little bit of time and I just feel like it's worth it, just in case it helps. But you'll probably see many people that don't, and their tumblers come out fine. So I have some 90% rubbing alcohol. I spray it on the towel, and I just clean off my tumbler. Now you do want to be careful if you do this. Don't have your image or your sublimation paper with the image on it laying close by, because you don't want to mix anything liquid with your sublimation image. All right, these dry really quickly, and especially when I'm going to have to cut down my images, they're going to have plenty of time to dry. Now, I always have people ask me, what size of image do you? And that is really going to depend on your branded tumbler. For me, a pretty good starting point is to have it be 9.4 inches wide and 8.15 or 8.2 inches tall. On this one, I went ahead and did the full 8.2 because anything I cut off is just going to be a solid color. Now this image is so light before it gets sublimated that it's kind of hard to tell where to cut. But I definitely want to have one side that has absolutely no white. Otherwise you're going to have a white streak on your cup. So I'm just looking at this carefully, and I can see I cut off a tiny bit of the green. You probably can't see that. But with the naked eye, I can see I cut off a tiny bit of the green. So I'll definitely want to put this side down if I don't get a little bit of the green off over here. And what I mean by putting it down, I want to put it down first on the tumbler and then wrap this side on top of it. Now, something I've never had happen before. There was something on the back of this and it stuck onto my paper. I did wipe it off. Hopefully that doesn't show up as a little bit of white or anything like that. I think I'll be okay. All right, let's see if this is going to fit. I put my tumbler upside down. And it wraps all the way around, and it's really too tall. So I'm going to cut a little bit more off, then I'll cut the other one down, and then we'll keep working. All right, I am ready to move on, and so I have my first tumbler upside down. There's my image. I'm going to flip it over so that it's going the right direction. And then on this one, it really doesn't matter which side I put down first because there's no white on this side or that side. Now I can see it wasn't, I can see it wasn't quite even on the top, which is now on the table. So I want to go ahead and do that again. All right, that looks better. So I'm going to take this Pinch Perfect tool, just put it in the middle, and then hold on to my paper tightly while I clamp this down or together. And it doesn't click into place or anything. You're just pulling on it so that this is nice and tight. Now, hopefully I didn't cut my image a little too short. It'll be fine. Okay, so with this heat tape, I'm going to put it on the side of the paper that's on top. And then pull that, pull that paper tightly together and then press it down. Then I want to go ahead and do it on the other side of the Pinch Perfect as well. Now see right here, my paper didn't come out quite even. I did not cut it perfectly square, and that's why. All right, let's do the same thing on this side. And then lastly, I'm going to go ahead and do one more piece in the middle. Now at this point, what I like to do is I like to go ahead and put a piece of tape along the entire part of the seam. Now this is just how I do it. If something else works for you, stay with what you do. This is just what I found to work the best for me. Now, just like before, when I'm laying this tape down, I'm going to stick it to the top piece of the paper first, and then pull those together and push it down. Okay, so I want to make sure that the paper comes at least to the top of the tumbler. And it looks like it does, but just to be safe, I'm going to put my hand in it and just kind of tap on that to move it down just ever so slightly. And because this paper's tight, it doesn't always move on the first try. Okay, I really feel like that's good. So now I'm just going to push this over to the inside of the tumbler and press that down. And then I'm going to do the same thing right down here. So right now is where, if you like to conserve tape, you're probably going to be telling me I use too much tape. And I probably do. But I have found this to be the best taping method for me. And so I'm going to stick with it. Now the first piece of tape is fairly even with the top of the tumbler. Then this next piece, I'm going to put it where it is about a third of the way on the tape, maybe halfway on the tape. And I'm going to pull really tightly. So the way that curves in is helping that paper to curve in as well. These tumblers do at the top have a roll to them. I mean, they're straight, skinny tumblers, but there is a slight roll to them at the very top. Okay, so now you can either use your table and really rub that down, or a lot of the times what I'll do is I'll take something like this and I'll just rub really nice and hard on that tape. Okay, I'm going to use the exact same method on the bottom. I'll get the other tumbler ready, and then we're going to put it in the press. Now, if you don't have a tool to help you, put your tape on the top piece of paper with both hands, hold the bottom piece still, and then pull really tightly from this side to this side. Now, I cut my paper a little bit too long and there's a little too much on the bottom. And so as that curves around the beveled edge, there are some little puckers. So I do try to rub those out either with my fingernail, with something like this, or rubbing them on the table. So this may not be a perfect tumbler, neither of these. I think the seam in the back will look great. I think the seam at the top will look great. And I'm hoping that these seams at the bottom surprise me and that they look great as well. Now here's the tumbler press I've been using a lot lately. Again, it is an Enur, and let me go ahead, we'll close that up so I can tilt it. I'll tilt it up so you can see the front. Now the power button is over on the side. It's a red toggle switch, so I'll go ahead and flip that on. It comes with 4 presets. So right now it's on preset 1. Preset 2 is set to 350 for 15 seconds. That's like when I'm using it with the hat press attachment, that's for rhinestones. Preset 3 and preset 4. I haven't used 3 or 4 yet. Now preset 1 originally came at 356 for 50 seconds. I bumped it up to 375. So look how fast this thing heats up. It is really, really quick. So let me go ahead and put it down, let it heat up. Then we'll get that first tumbler in there. Now I used HTV Ront sublimation paper. I love this paper. It is now my go-to paper, and I have not found that it bleeds through the back. However, I'm still going to use some butcher paper around it. Now I've used this before and there's no ink on it, but I'm still going to use some butcher paper because I do want to protect the inside of my press. The other thing is I always put the seam either at the back or the front, and I had somebody ask me, why does it matter where the seam goes? I just like it at the back or the front because I feel like that's where the most pressure is. And I feel like that seam should be pressed first. If you put it at the top and you squeeze, I just worry about that kind of separating or puckering up. So that's why I do it that way. Again, some people do it other ways. If it works well for you, then don't change a thing. So I have the seam at the front, and I'm going to go ahead and close this up. And then you press enter to start it counting down. Now, I've already put this to the pressure it needs to be because I've only used this on 20-ounce sublimation mugs. If you're using something else, or when you first get it, you can turn these knobs to increase or decrease the pressure. Then when you do that, you want to look down the line in between these two pieces and make sure it's fairly even. You don't want to have a gap this big on one side and this big on the other, because then your press isn't straight. It's not getting even pressure everywhere. Now when this beeps, I'm going to go ahead and open it, turn my tumbler 180 degrees and close it back up. Now I need to press enter again to get it to 50 and a second time for it to start counting down. Now your tumbler is going to be scorching hot, so be really careful at this point. I'm going to set it over here on a Cricut pressing mat and let that cool a little bit while we do the second tumbler, which I am just going to fast forward through. Now this mat is not hot at all, and so I do like the fact that you can put this on a table and you don't have to worry too much about your table. Now I would always still protect my table, but the mat isn't warm at all. All right, let's start with the first tumbler. It is still pretty hot. It's not terrible. I can handle it. So I'm just going to cut a little slit in the top of the tape. We'll do the same at the bottom. And then, even though I think this is done, what I want to do is I want to be really careful when I open the paper, because if I see that it's under sublimated, I can tape it back down and put it back in for some more time. Now fortunately, I don't usually have to do that, but it is an option. So let's just pull this tape down part way and I'll sneak a peek. Ooh, okay. I think that looks good. I hope the bottom turned out as well. Now I noticed the little silver thing came up. That's okay. I'm going to have that rubber black piece on the bottom anyway. That's beautiful. So pretty. Now I see a little remnants of paper right there and right there. I'll clean that off and show you that's really just paper remnants. The back seam is a little bit darker than the rest of the tumbler because one of two things. I have the green overlapping slightly, and or where there's two pieces of paper, you're getting more pressure on that. But that doesn't bother me at all. That is cute. Okay, so I see a little flaw, and it's probably where the tape was wrinkled, and so it put uneven pressure on it. See right here? There's a little flaw in that. Now the seam at the top, that looks pretty good. Let's see, the seam at the bottom was what I was worried about. That actually looks pretty good. Let me show you. Right here, there was probably a slight little pucker, but it's really at the very, very bottom where it's curving around, so I don't think you're going to see that. All in all, I am happy with this tumbler. Now I went with a super light color. Their colors in the shop are black and white because, of course, they want to show off the colors of all the cakes and the cookies and the cupcakes and everything. And so I just went with a super pale, kind of greenish blue and black. I think that'll look nice. All right, let me show you. Here's where my tape isn't really flat against the paper. And I think that's what happened on the other one. So I fully expect there to be a little bit of a flaw back here by the seam. Let's see, and some more there. So I need to slow down and just make sure that I'm doing the best job I can. Now I think also because this is a really light colored and solid design, things like that show up even more. If it were a bright floral design or something like that, even if it was there, you would probably never notice it. Now actually on this one I don't even see those issues at all. There might be a little bit of paper remnants right there. But I don't see that line like I saw in that one that I thought was from the tape having that little wrinkle in it. There's the back seam. You can see it's a little darker. But I think that's gorgeous. And what a great way to brand your business. So we have the lids for these. We have the little rubber bottoms. And of course you would wait until after you sublimate to add these on. Okay, I have it on there, so I'm just going to push it over and press down flat on my table. And then again, each one comes with 2 straws, the little tips for the straws, and a cleaning brush. So thanks so much for joining me. I hope you enjoyed today's video, and until the next one, bye-bye.